This is a Board of Education regular business meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Law was provided by written notice on April 26, 2007. The Recorder News, the Echo Sentinel, the Reporter, the Star Ledger, and the Clerk to the Borough of Watchung and the Township of Long Hill and Warren. Can I have a roll call?
Binder?
Here.
Fallon?
Yes.
Falzarano?
Yes.
Spector?
Yes.
Horowitz? Pepe?
Aye.
Mrs. Mandel?
She was just here.
Oh, I'm here. Aye. Okay.
She's here.
She's here.
Mr. Sun?
Yep.
She's here.
Dr. Yaggett? Dr. Seal?
Here. Can I have a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I just point out, everybody, we are recording this via our camera. Please be aware that things like wriggling papers, shuffling papers, tapping, things like that on the table create a lot of distraction to those who might be trying to view the videotape or the video on this, okay? So with that, we can start with Dr. Stromzen's comments.
Thank you, Dr. Seelig. Have quite a bit to report on, and it's all very, very interesting and positive stuff. To follow up with the 50th anniversary events that are taking place, February 9th, we will be hosting a movies night here at the Hills, where we'll be showing movies from the 50s. We will also be giving a tour of the facility and offering a breakfast for seniors. We also are involved with our anniversary garden. You'll be seeing a flyer coming out very soon, beginning of February, with regard to donations that will be gratefully accepted for the anniversary garden, and a whole process by which that will take place, which will be very simple and very beautiful for the dedication that we expect to take place on May 17th. We also have coming up on March the 14th the dinner dance that's going to be sponsored by the PTO. The mailing for the dinner dance is going out as we speak, and I'm very grateful to the members of the PTO for their support in this regard. The Foundation for Athletics for Watchung Hills will be hosting a casino night in April, and the Hall of Fame will also be having their nominations and reception in April. And we will conclude our 50th anniversary events in June with a triathlon sponsored by the Foundation, a picnic. We have some staff, student volleyball and basketball games coming up, so the winter promises to be very exciting, filled with great events to celebrate the 50th anniversary of our school. As you can see, our committees have been very active. We've had 8 various committee meetings in the last couple of weeks that you will hear the reports of during the report section of the meeting. And our sports teams, I have to say, have been very active as well and doing quite well. I have to say I was asked to go to the basketball game at Bridgewater. I went to my first ice hockey game on, I guess it was Friday night, and I didn't think I could be any colder than I was, but it was very, very cold in there. But the excitement on the ice was red hot, and our kids really, really played just tremendously. The level of sportsmanship, the level of play, I was very impressed, and it didn't much matter the wins or the losses. Of course, it's always nicer to win, but the idea that the kids really gave it their all. They played some very tough teams, had some excellent competition, a huge win in the hockey because they took off, knocked off number 8 ranked Ridge. So we were very proud of them, and I was very proud to be there. And with such excitement, I might actually go to another hockey game. So it was very entertaining, and I really appreciated being there to support our students. I also have to say that many times folks don't realize how much goes into what the administration and our teachers do to support our students when they're not on campus and in various events such as this. Our vice principals, our principal, various members of the faculty come to many of the games to support our students and also assist with, crowd control and supervision, even though they're really not paid to be there to do that. It's really a tremendous testament to their commitment and their interest in the well-being of our students. And it made me very proud to see so many people turn out for those events, and our kids were just extraordinary. So, Dr. Seelig, those are my remarks for this evening.
Thank you. I have a few comments tonight. First, I don't know if the number is accurate as of today, but as of about a week ago, and I don't know who has submitted or not submitted, but 6 board members had submitted their the board self-evaluation to Gwen Thornton. Barely gets us over the threshold where I think she might even consider it to be a valid self-evaluation. So if you haven't submitted it, please get it in. This is a CUSAC marking for us. It's worth probably 10% of one of those board self-evaluations, and so if we lose 2 of those, we're down in that 80% zone, which is where we start to be looked at by the state. So, secondly, don't forget there's a meeting tomorrow night. There's a finance committee meeting before the construction meeting, but at 6:30 there is a construction meeting. It's strictly an executive session. We'll have it here, so everybody will be able to get up to speed on what's been going on and the steps that have been taken. Last, and we'll have, we'll start off with a short discussion with our architect, Don Fiore, who will be here, and then he'll be excused, and we'll have him for a more lengthy, or another part of the discussion with our attorneys. Okay. Lastly, I just mentioned that this was in the Blue Notes also, in case you didn't. If you have had a chance to go through the supportive material that we provided you that had to do with the superintendent and CSA evaluation to provide feedback. Remember, we talked about the concept of interim feedback during the year to provide some guidance and direction, at least to get a discussion going, so you could talk with Fran about things that might be bothering you or things that you didn't think were going right, or to tell her things that you thought were going right. And so we sent that material out. I'm not monitoring this in any way. It's up to everybody here who has a desire or need to have a conversation with Fran, to have that conversation. So with that, I don't have any other comments. Mr. Stein?
Yes, thanks, excuse me. Thanks, Mr. President. Just real brief. Tomorrow, I do anticipate getting the first state download of the software and the guidelines for the budget. We also have a Finance Committee meeting. We will be discussing the 08-09 budget. One note on the state aid. I don't know if I said it last board meeting, but I will say it here. To the best of my knowledge, that we did get a $158,000 increase. We do not have to give that back. We do not even have to give a portion of it back. That's based on the information that we have so far. I guess I'll find out more tomorrow. But from what I see, and to the best of my knowledge from my association and my groups, reading through the state aid information, we do not have to give a portion of that back.
Okay, thank you. Dr. DeGancy?
I have nothing further to add. Dr.
I'm
Stromson did a
sorry.
beautiful, no, you did a beautiful job,
I don't usually
Okay.
talk about the sports stuff, but I was just so overwhelmed going
have a-
this week.
as well you should.
I have a question
Go ahead.
Yeah.
for Dr. DeGancy.
Can you speak up so you can be in the mic?
Oh, sorry. I gotta get
I
used
hate
to
to
this.
remind us of this.
Testing. I watched the basketball game on TV, and I noticed the basketball hoop in the gym down, and we can't pull the bleachers out. Is that gonna be addressed soon? Or is there a problem, or what can we do about that?
I will find out.
And by the way, the game was great.
Are you talking about the
Wonderful.
Lotta game?
The Immaculata
Yeah,
game,
that
that was on TV,
amazing.
yeah, very good,
It was a great week for sports for watching.
yeah.
Really
big.
was.
Okay.
That's it.
Since our student reps are not here, if they do show up, we'll defer their comments to later.
That's like the second meeting in a row.
Yep.
Do they know about the meetings?
Yes, they did. I have a feeling they'll be here around 8:25.
We'll watch for that.
We have 8 committee reports tonight, and it may take a while to get through those. Board's indulgence so that Judith Mulder, who's going to present curriculum items, can get home and get rested up for tomorrow. If the board's indulgence, I'd like to invite her to speak first, and then we can go into our committee's reports. Is there any problem with that change in the agenda? We go ahead and make that change then. You want to introduce her?
Yes. Judith Mulder is our Arts Department Supervisor. Jack of all trades, handles many things in the theater as well, and has really been a welcome addition to Watchung Hills. She has 2 new courses to tell us about for proposal for our inclusion in our program of studies for next school year.
Thank you, Fran. What these 2 course proposals are is a continuation of the development of a sequential study of theater here at Watchung Hills. The study of theater is a requirement from the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards, and up until last year, we did not have true academic theater courses in the program of studies. This year, we have running 2. We have an Introduction to Theater Arts course and a Theater Production course. What these course proposals are for next steps, follow-up courses to the 2 that are currently running now. Introduction to Theater Arts is a course in which one of the units taught through the curricular semester is in acting. The follow-up course to this would be the acting workshop course, which has been written up as a proposal here. And what that does, it is a full semester of students working to learn about acting as an art form, both the history and development of acting in the Western world and acting as a true skill, using the performance space, developing the voice, developing concentration in the creation of character, and looking at some of the major schools of thought in terms of how an actor does their job, which would be Stanislavski and Delsarte. And then finally, the preparation of an audition and a portfolio. And we do have quite a few students right now who are looking to pursue theater on the college level, and this will give them an opportunity to develop a portfolio, much like a visual artist creates a portfolio. We have had great success thus far in not only the theater course that we're running right now, but in the participation from the students on what we've done so far in the new theatrical space. So we have the students who are very interested in this. It's a major area of study in colleges, and this will give the students the opportunity to truly develop acting skills. For those students who aren't going on to acting, there are very few jobs left in the world where you don't get up and speak. So it is also the development of poise and oral presentation that has gone a little bit by the wayside in current educational thought. So it is always a great opportunity for a student to be able to gain confidence and poise. So that's the acting workshop. So the prerequisite for that course would be the Introduction to Theater Arts course. So those students would have already gotten a background in all areas of theater arts and touched a bit on monologue performance. Any questions on that course before I move on? Yes.
How many students right now are taking that prerequisite course? Roughly?
I believe it's 48. By the end of this year, 48 will have taken that course.
And do you have a rough idea how many of the kids actually go on to colleges to pursue, like every year?
We've never done any data like that, and since the program is brand new, that might be something that we'd want to look at. All I know is the enthusiasm that I get from the students who are involved in the program, and I know that a number of our students have put in applications and will be auditioning for governor's school. So Miss Lori Wesley, our theater teacher, does work with these students for different auditions now, so the enthusiasm is there.
I'm always curious because, you know, it's nice to compare and see, you know, if you're sending the right amount of kids compared to other schools, or if they're getting into where they should be getting in or not getting in, if we're doing enough or not doing enough in terms of this.
As we build, that would be a great thing to look at, because unfortunately, previously to this year, a lot of the kids with these aspirations went to the VOTEC. But now we have it here in the curriculum at Watchung Hills. They don't need to go anywhere. So.
And are there other courses that are going to follow this too, that then, is that what I heard you say? or-
After the acting workshop, the course hasn't been written or a proposal hasn't been written, but the next logical place to go to would be an advanced acting workshop where the students would do scene study, because this course mostly deals with creating character and performing monologues. So scene study would be the next logical step.
And who would teach this course?
Miss Lori Wesley has a certification in theater, teacher of theater here. She's on staff.
Any other questions on the first course?
Okay, the second course is the sequential follow-up to the other course that's currently running in our curriculum, which is theater production. Again, right now, there are two semesters of the class running. We have about 40, 45 students who will have completed this course by the end of this year, but we had many more lined up to fit in. So there's a great interest in this area. And this follow-up course takes the theater production course is an overview of all things to do with theater that do not including acting. And that also went into theater management and artistic direction and how do you publicize plays. This follow-up course to theater production is purely technical theater, called Backstage, because that's where all the action is backstage. And tech theater now exists as a major in almost every college throughout the nation. Tech theater degrees get you into film, get you into television, get you into corporate events, get you a job like Brian Bayachek's doing this kind of AV kind of work. We have a pool of students who are just so technically apt and dying to have more information and a way to channel that energy. And I always get from parents, you mean they can do this as a job? Oh yes, they can do this as a job. So what we would do is take a look at the major backstage job areas, and the students would really go into depth and get hands-on work and study about how you would do that as a career and how you would study that academically. We will have set design, costumes and makeup. If anybody saw, we had a very little old man as a student today. I made him around 85, 90 years old this morning, and he had a grand time walking around in theatrical makeup all day. Props, I'm sorry, there's a typo here with two costumes and makeup units. I don't know if you have that mistake. Lighting and lighting design, stage management, which is a huge career, and the last unit of the course would be the ability to evaluate a production now that you know what goes into it. So you have the critic's eye to take a look at a theatrical production and begin to analyze the work that became involved. I know that when I go to the theater and the performance bores me, I look at the lights. My husband wonders why I'm looking up there instead of on stage. So there are many things that go on to make a production a production. We have here in the Performing Arts Center a state-of-the-art Broadway quality house with lock rail systems, and the lighting board here is what you would get in any community theater, regional theater. So students learn how to program the computer on that lighting board, and to work in this space, we are preparing them for not just college, but the professional world. We have a better system here than quite a few colleges. Also, as we begin to develop this space, our students who are in these technical workshop courses will actually be able to have enough skills and knowledge to work with some of the outside groups that come in to perform at the Performing Arts Center and really have an opportunity that students at another high school may not get. So that's the Backstage course. Any questions on that one?
How many students did you say were taking the prereq this time?
I think it's between 40 and 45 students will have completed it before the end of this year.
Thank you.
But I know they were knocking on the door for another section to be opened up. There is so much enthusiasm for theater here that I foresee us having really a very dynamic program within the next couple of years.
How many sections do you have now for 40 and 45? Is that 2 sections?
That's just 2 sections of each prerequisite, and I hope that will expand next year to 4 and 4, and then these two offered as follow-ups. It always has to be introduced slowly as the program builds.
I have a question about sound.
Yes.
So it looks like sound is just addressed in stage management.
Yeah, that's probably, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, did I type this up when I wasn't feeling well? So I'm looking now in the actual chart, and no, it's actually Unit 6. For some reason, there is a typo in the front that I'll
Yeah,
have
it
to
seemed like
take
there
a
should be
look
a
at.
section for that.
Yeah, but within the chart that maps out the units with the essential questions and the learning objectives, Unit 6 is sound engineering and sound design, which is a huge field to be able to set sound levels and set up a sound system and run sound for any kind of event. I know one of the biggest programs is the University of Hartford, and a lot of kids go there for sound design. They want to be mixers for rock bands and things like that. And plugging in mics here and setting sound levels is where they would get their start. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll have to take a look at this and revamp it and send it on correct.
Judy, does this include any work with stagehands? Are they trained in any way to do what the stagehands do in theater?
Well, the term stagehand is a bit tough. A true stagehand is simply someone who moves furniture.
Is that the group that was just
Yes.
the union? Okay.
They were just, and the other one is, that is also, stagehands also pull the ropes to change the scenery and things like that. That's a union position, a union job. Our kids get that experience through production. These are for the bigger positions that you would actually need to go on to college to train for and come out with a degree to get a job in the,
Well, I was just
in the
thinking of
real
the
world.
youngsters who are not as qualified. If we had the lower level student who can go in there and pull the sets around.
Oh, always,
Make a
you know.
spot for them too.
A hands-on course like this that's designed as technical theater workshop, there is always the opportunity to meet the requirements, and then there's the kid who can go take it as far as they wish. So there's flexibility built into a hands-on course like this for the student who is going to go home and put it all on the computer and make Excel sheets, and then the other student does a more simplified version but learns the information. So that's what's great about things like this. You know, one girl could, or one guy, I shouldn't be gender specific about it, could just draw the picture of a costume. The other one might be motivated to go home and make it or find it and pull it. So we hope to open up. I've been involved in high school theater for over 20 years, and it never ceases to amaze me the sparks that you find from kids and the look on their face when they found the niche to be where they wanted to be. So that's what we'd like to provide the opportunity for.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Well
much.
done. Thank you.
With that, we're going to proceed to committee reports. Like I said, we had a number of committees. I encourage you to keep your comments brief when it comes to committee report so we can move forward. First on the list is finance. Ron?
Thanks, Paul. We had a meeting, I think, less than 2 weeks ago. We have another one tomorrow. They're really, I think that the two principal issues or areas, one is the budget that we're working with Tim. And I think it's important, I think most of us, who read papers, which I assume is all of us, the board and administration members, it's sometimes we don't operate in a vacuum. The economy this year is brutal. You can't pick up a paper every day reading about a loss, of $20 billion at Merrill Lynch or Citibank, people being laid off, the president meeting with members of Congress to put a plan together as the country seemingly is heading into a recession. Stock market, this isn't meant to be the Wall Street Journal report, but the point of making is that as compared to, other years when things, appear more prosperous, I think we really have even an additional responsibility to tightly look at the budget, and that's our intention, working with Tim to see, what's necessary, what's desirable, and what would be, pleasantly being able to include in the budget. So that's the process that we're going to be taking, because I think we all recognize that it's just crucial to get the budget passed. Last year, fortunately, the budget passed by a healthy margin, because I believe we all worked very hard to make it a budget that would be acceptable to the townspeople of Warren, Watchung, and Long Hill. So again, that's our goal this year. And I think the timetable, Tim, just remind me, when are we going to make at least the first presentation to the board? Is that still in February, one of the February dates?
Yeah, excuse me, it's either going to have to be the very first meeting in February, based on the timelines, or we're going to have a special meeting just prior to the February 15th, if we're going to apply for a cap waiver.
Okay.
And I'll find that out tomorrow.
Okay. The other, the other significant monetary issue, and we'll be really drilling into this one again, will be the formula as to what is comprised and what are the numbers, expenses that should be properly included into the calculation of the Greenbrook, the formula for the Greenbrook tuition. So specifically, we'll be looking at that again tomorrow. Tim told me he has some pretty good data. Well, from Tim, it's always good. I don't mean to say pretty good, but it's exacting data that we will report back to the full committee. And really the issue, one of the principal issues is the issue of the bonds, the interest, and/or the principal payments, and to what extent Greenbrook should be shouldering those payments. Also, of course, and I think there's a separate committee meeting on that, the issue, of course, it does impact on finance, on the issue of the special education, the charges with that. Just a couple other quick issues I just want to touch on. Again, we want to take a serious look at the issue of the energy rebate, and to see what recourse we have. It's about a $75,000 rebate that should be due and owing to the school district. So that's a significant amount of money. We want to take a look at that. Also, we one of the issues that I think is it's been very difficult to grapple with is the whole issue of busing. I mean, what is the direction? The busing, Tim, all said and done, third party, our busing, it's a $2 million plus a year expense item.
Yeah, it's approximately $2 million.
Very significant. I know a number of years ago, it seemed that the direction was to outsource. Then, for various reasons, and perhaps good reasons, we've seemed to take somewhat of a 180-degree turn with respect to providing the services in-house. So we want to take a careful look at that. One of the issues we did take a look at, I think, Tim, there was a request for next year. Was it 2 buses or 1?
There was a request for, actually it was 3, 2 replacements.
And 1 new.
And 1 new, but we cut back on the new. We just got to replace the 2 ones that are going to be, they need to be replaced.
One of the issues we want to look at, instead of purchasing the bus, to absolutely make sure, because once you purchase with a lease purchase financing agreement for the buses, it's over the course of 5 years, there's interest. And so one of the, we're going to speak to Tim, whether if looking down we don't know, we're uncertain, we'll need those extra buses, that we'll look into the option, at least if we could lease with an option to buy after the first year. So we just don't, we want to make sure if we go ahead and purchase these buses that in fact we'll be sure that we need them. I think again we need, and I think maybe, Tim, I don't know whether it should be at a finance meeting or the general meeting. I think it's time to bring the Pomptonian representatives in front of, to we're about halfway through the year. There are 2 issues that, again, if you see on the reports that Tim puts in there, we're operating at a loss, an operational loss, probably somewhere, if it holds out, $35,000 to $50,000 this year. And as you know, that 35, whatever the loss is, whether it's $1 or more, it has to come out of the operating budget. It has to be paid somehow. And the issue there really, there are 2 drivers. are we missing something in terms of revenues? And related to that, do we know, Tim, at this juncture, what percentage of the kids, Fran or Tom, that are using I call it the debit card. I know that's probably not the correct term.
Under 30%.
Under 30%. It's not good. And of course, the other benefit to increasing the utilization of that card, not only to increase the revenues, but certainly with, was it 22-minute lunch hours?
25.
25, so now we can practically have waiter service.
Need 2 more French fries.
Is that it certainly speeds the lines across. So that's an issue. I think, I'm sure many of you on the board might have questions as to the operations of that. I really, I think that sort of a subsection of the Finance Committee, Bernie, Paul, and myself, we are the Sponsorship Marketing Committee, and we hope, working with Tim and Fran, to see there's some of the local banks we've been talking to, and also issues whether or not there's some opportunities to lease some of our property, a small amount of the property, for potential antenna cellular devices. It's at a very beginning stage. There's nothing firm in that, but it's something at least worth looking at. The other thing, just in closing, Tim, was it I don't like using the word windfall, but was the extra $100,000, was that from the IDEA funding?
No.
Where was the extra $100,000, Fran?
We talked about last month.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the 158?
Well, we budgeted.
No, there's a revenue we were getting.
We got more IDEA money.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
The federal dollars.
Yeah, federal dollar, about $100,000. And one of the things that really we need to take we're at the halfway point in the school year, is to we under budgeted legal expenditures, use of outside counsel. So whether it's that money or other monies, as we'll see tomorrow night, and as you just get an idea, probably could be $200,000 of under budgeted because of the construction litigation and some other things. So we need to get a handle on that, so that the legal fees tend to lag behind other vendors, but they're hefty, and it's something we got to address. So that just gives you an overview of the big issues. Tomorrow we have the meeting, and keep on moving.
Thanks, Rob. Any questions? Personnel?
Jerry?
We actually met prior to this regular board meeting. Several things we talked about. The Director of Operations, they've extended the advertising to February 15th, still looking for the right person for that position. So there's nothing new other than that to report. They have gotten some resumes, and they've done a little bit of pre-screening, but that's about it. They still have the window open for people to apply. Director of Guidance, still having trouble, I think, finding the right person for that job. Mr. Peterson has already had some ideas that they've shared with the administration, and they're still continuing to look and try to turn over any rock. So if anybody has any ideas or any recommendations, or anybody they know, or any leads on a Director of Guidance, share them, please. We have gotten a preliminary organization chart that was handed out. We had talked about it the last meeting. We had some corrections and adjustments. Some of those are new positions that are tied to the budget, so at the time the budget's shared, I think that'll also be discussed as far as what that organization chart may look like at the top, administrative level. We also took a look at some new positions that administration is looking for 2008, 2009. Some staffing level teaching positions that are requested. Again, it's tied to the budget and where we see the budget falling out, so there's really nothing more definitive I can share with you at this point. One thing I will tell you is they're taking one of the English teacher positions and taking that apart and using 2/5 or 2 periods as a college consultant in the guidance area. The person had to have a very good aptitude for doing that. So in the effort of what we've all talked about, of trying to get more children into colleges, this would be a person that'd be available for both students and parents to help guide them through the admission process. It's not a new position. It's taking an existing teacher, although it may lead to some additional staffing in the next year's budget. We didn't talk about the IT personnel compensation.
No, we forgot that.
So we didn't get to that
Forgot
one.
to
Affirmative action, we again talked about it at our meeting, and some of the things that we're trying to do to reach out to make sure we're looking for the most qualified candidates at all times for the school. So Bev shared some things with us about that. We beat that up a little bit. And then the evaluation process, in light of, I think, some areas that we wanted to see improved. We talked with the administration about what we're doing. They've in service. All the people doing evaluations through their collaborative supervisors process. They've had lawyers in to make sure that everything is being done correctly, using evidence-based statements. They're doing a lot of walkthroughs. Multiple people are doing evaluations rather than just one person on any one teaching or certificated person. And like I said, all evaluators have been trained. So that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Negotiations, do you have anything you want to talk about in public, or you want to talk about?
Well, I'll just briefly tell people that, that we have, Bernie exchanged the scattergrams with the union last week. We're scheduling meetings, but most of our discussion about where we are is going to take place in executive session. We want to go over some of our proposals and discuss them with everyone, and I just want to thank the other members of the negotiation committee and Paul for picking up for me, as I've been out of pocket most of the last 2 weeks, but they all kept things moving, and I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Any questions? Buildings and grounds?
Yep, here we are. Okay, we met last Thursday. Rob had brought up mentioned the person he met down in Atlantic City. He stopped by the B&G meeting that day and made a presentation of just the information to tell us what it's all about. He's going to forward Tim some more information, and then I guess we're going to get him to present it to the board or something.
We're going to have them present it to that revenue committee.
Revenue committee, okay.
Is this access?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the
And it-
axis of evil, this
No, no.
is axis of
Access and-
sponsorship opportunity.
And it's
So
definitely
we'll get to
worth
the-
looking into. It doesn't cost us a dime to find out whether we're a site that's acceptable or not. So it was just, he was there about 20 minutes, just gave us the bread and butter of the antenna issue, and it's something that can be hidden, something we mounted to the light poles at the stadium, so it's not obtrusive. So it seemed like a good idea to further look into, so.
Lou,
Yes.
did you know, or anyone, is it Fran, just out of curiosity, when you're traveling 78 West, and,
Right.
I don't know, whether it's a quarter mile, there's the high school, boundary, that fence, is that where our boundary is? When you're traveling on 78, you sort of have the shoulder of the road, goes in maybe, 15
I'm not
feet,
sure.
and then there's a fence.
Yeah, I
that
don't know where the
runs.
property line
I'm
is.
not
We could
sure.
find out. I think Chris has a site plan.
I mean, there's
I'm
no
honestly
one,
not sure.
but there's no property owner between us and the 78, right?
No, just the state, it's their easement, I guess.
But it's very possible we won't have to put a structure up anywhere. We can utilize either the facility
Yeah.
roof or the poles that are already there, so,
What kind of antenna is this for? What?
Cellular.
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 Telephone.
okay? There, it's, once we find out a little more information, that what they do is they access all the companies out there and find out whether this site is a hot site for them to invest in. And once they do that, then they'll find out what antennas want to be put up, and then they can see whether they be on a light pole, you can hide them within a flagpole, there's all kinds of ways to hide them.
Are there any safety concerns?
No,
Something like this?
I think there was more issues with you holding the phone next to your head than these antennas would be a problem with, so.
According to the vendor, they had some studies that they shared with us that indicated they
So-
would not be. But again, it would certainly bear investigation.
So that's something we'll be getting more information on anyway, so.
Lou, I'll
And-
talk to you, experience we've had in Watchung, but afterwards,
I think once you find out more about this. We may not run into all those problems that other communities are having with
It's not a problem.
migratory issues and
It's
stuff
not a
like
problem,
that.
it's just facts that we had
Yeah,
to know.
yeah.
Might be helpful for you.
Yep. And then we, Don Fiore went down a breakdown of the things that were being done. We actually had a visit from McQuay, which supplied a lot of the units that were pre-purchase units, and we're starting to get a little bit of response from them, which was good. We don't know how much yet, but it was good just to see them here. McBride and Torcon requested a list of all the HVAC work that's being done by MSC. Cavett keeps knocking off their list of things to do. They're probably at a point where they're requesting that one payment. I believe we felt that they had reached that point, but we're going to discuss that with legal counsel, find out whether they want to release that or not. The South Auditorium is pretty much past all its inspections. They're just waiting for the paperwork to come through to finalize that. Pit lift, again, they're still waiting for additional paperwork to come through, but Don feels that they're this close, DCA is still picking it apart little by little.
Hey, Lou?
Yes.
Just quick on the pit lift.
Right.
Do you have any sense? Now, I know we're not going to be doing, AIDA with live elephants up and down the pit lift,
Yeah.
But, I mean, in the best situation, what you've heard optimally,
Right.
what is it they're going to allow us to do without making any major modifications of that pit lift?
Yeah, you'll be able to use it at floor level and stage level. Okay, you will have a seating capacity, a weight limit, and you'll be able to use it at those two levels. The lowest level is still going to be a dogfight to find out what we can do, but right now, we're just trying to be able to use it
Right.
at least those two
And
positions.
the lowest level is because of issues of ingress and egress?
Egress, yes.
How would people
That's pretty much all it is,
get off it?
Yep.
Or get off it, or out of
in
it?
and out of the pit, so.
Okay.
The TV studio, the Department of Education sent a variation of a door swing. They sent it down to DCA for approval, and they should be getting Don's plan approval for that area, which is mostly going to be changing out the ceiling tiles to fire-rated ceiling and some fire dampers. So it won't be a major cost to take care of that issue and get the TV studio up and running. The floor, the courtside floor out in the foyer, we're going to have a discussion tomorrow on, which we'll get pretty in-depth with what's actually going on with that. MSC is going through all the units. They're creating a really good list to work off of for startup issues and commissioning issues. So they've done a real good job on that, and Russ is very happy with their service there. Plus, with the cold weather, we're curious to see how a lot of the units would run.
Actually, I can report it went very well.
Good, awesome.
Yeah, it's one of our maintenance guys, Steve, hasn't been on the roof every 2 hours, so
Yeah.
that's a
positive.
tremendously
Yeah, last-
positive result.
Last year, Steve was chasing every unit down, trying to keep them from freezing up. And we had numerous steam traps frozen last year, and right now, I don't think we've had any.
No, this weekend went well.
Yeah,
That's a
that
very
was a
good
true
sign.
test with the cold weather this weekend. The fume hoods, we're still going back and forth with DCA, but Don thinks he's gonna have the approval. He emailed me today that there was some back and forth with one of the inspectors, but those approvals should be hopefully by tomorrow for the fume hoods, except for one gas fitting on room 405, I believe it is. They're going to address that, but it shouldn't affect the hood operation. And then we discussed briefly some budget issues about the central office movement, some new classes, where the old board area was, creating new classrooms for next year, putting that into next year's budget, restrooms for football field, and locker room refurbishing, bringing them in, phasing them in, doing one year, another one another year, so we just keep getting those locker rooms that are pretty outdated and beat up renovated. So it was a long meeting, we got a lot done though.
Any questions, other questions?
I have a question regarding the range hoods, and you might not know the answer to this one. If the approval is tomorrow, how far away is it for them to be up and running in the classrooms?
Immediately,
Okay.
yeah, as soon as that,
Okay.
all it is, it's a TCO approval from the DCA to allow you to use the hood, and it's just a formal
Okay.
paperwork.
Of course, we've been waiting every
It
day
seems like,
for
yeah, every-
the last week that it was going to be here today, so hopefully it'll be here tomorrow. Eric, you had a question?
Yes, regarding this heating bill is really one of our major expense. And what I've noticed is the South Stream is extremely hot many times. I think not just for kids exercise, and if you don't exercise, you stand there, you feel the dry heat. So I hope there's somebody really looking into that. During the weekend, I try to adjust, put it the lowest, that won't help at all.
Well,
It's a balance. It's
Yeah, just
balancing.
so you-
The South Stream.
what's happening is now as MSC goes through the facility, they'll be able to start balancing the system as they commission the units. And right now, the whole system hasn't been balanced. So you're gonna get hot sections of the building where are hotter than others.
Yeah.
So, but they, like I said, Russ and Steve are really happy with them because they're not chasing their tails this year.
And just Eric, so that you know, there's the science labs in the back that are stone cold, very cold.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of balance, that there's too much heat going in, one area, the gyms, and then the labs are cold. So we have to get that fixed.
Any other questions? Thank you. Curriculum?
Well, we didn't meet, except we did discuss the presentation tonight on the theater courses, and at our last meeting, Michael spoke of the changes in the math sequencing, and so that curriculum really just had a heads up on these two presentations that were coming. But the whole group has had it now.
Sure, there's also the in-house curriculum, the teacher curriculum
Oh, yeah.
meeting, and they had a meeting this past week, I think it was right before, the Friday before the long break. And Dr. DeGancy was able to talk about Genesis to the teachers, and I think it's a great thing that, to get everything all in one package.
We had the
That's
first-
been fractured in the past.
We had the first training for Genesis for our IT people yesterday. So it's getting launched.
Will Ross also presented last week, his English class courses too.
Okay. Questions? Okay, nothing on co-curricular this
No.
time. The Policy and Regulation Committee met. We're trying to kind of get reorganized and restart evaluating what we've been doing and where we are at this point in time. I'll do my best to kind of summarize what we discussed. We have a list of policies that have, we're trying to balance the list of policies that we have so that we have a list that's consistent with what Strauss-Esme has, both in terms of title as well as in terms of things that we have on our website and what they think we have on our website, so that we're completely balanced, because they do maintain a copy of those policies for us. And we're also going to use that then as a guide for us to make sure to sweep through, and they can identify which ones they have in the list that are mandated, and we can sweep through those again to make sure that we haven't missed anything that's obvious, because it's those mandated ones that are going to cause us problems when it comes to monitoring. So we'll take another look at that. We spent a lot of time talking about the facilities use and theater contract. My hope is that we'll be able to bring that to this board, I think at the next meeting or at the meeting in the end of February for first reading. That is the facility use policy. The theater contract is one that's been in play for a year now, kind of working out the wrinkles, making sure that it was acceptable. It went through legal review prior to its first use over a year ago. So And that constitutes kind of the body of the facilities. Facilities uses kind of the infrastructure, everything, and then underneath that, there may be specific kinds of contractual arrangements that are going to be made, and the theater would be one of the larger ones. So I kind of expect, probably not the next meeting, but probably the last meeting of February, we'll start to bring forward some policies for you from a first read standpoint for the purposes of review. We're trying to organize ourselves so that we can get to point probably sometime towards the end of next summer to transition our policies so that they are then really on a website that we can then maintain and point to that will be managed for us through Strauss Estimate. It's a good facility to have. We had it demoed probably 6 months ago, where they review not only they not only have the policy, but then they have the links to regulations and to the law. So it's an easy thing for people to get around through and to search. And so we'll be taking a look at seeing how we can make that connection in the future. So we're trying to organize ourselves, and then even if we as a board choose not to do that, going through that exercise will be a benefit to us, because then we'll have on our website then the final version of the policies fully updated in a more manageable state. Laura, Pete, did I miss anything? You guys were at the meeting.
No, the bulk of it was going over the theater contract.
Theater contract. So we had some suggestions and comments on that, and we're going back.
Which is very
to that.
comprehensive.
Yeah.
Paul, where do
Rob,
we
yeah.
stand with the, just reminding me,
Yeah.
the improper conduct policy that's, we've,
We took that back. You had suggested, I don't know, November, that you'd been down to school boards, I think, and you talked to Dr. DeCastro and come back and said that if we got the comments back from him, that whatever he said would be acceptable. And so we've sent it to
Good.
him for his comments.
Good.
And I kind of thought we might have it by this meeting, but
Okay.
that didn't quite happen, so.
They moved their offices, so they were a little bit
Okay,
disheveled.
so
Thank you.
we're working on that, so we get that feedback from them.
Great.
And then whatever they say, we'll build that into the policy,
Great.
and then they'll come back to this board for first
Okay.
reading, okay? But we wanted to make sure, thanks for bringing it up, because I was supposed to bring it up. We'll make sure it gets back to the board, hopefully by the next meeting.
thanks.
It hasn't been forgotten. Any questions on policy? Okay, with that, community and business relations, Laura?
Sure, we had a meeting on January 9th, and we discussed the rotating drop, and again, how the teachers are getting together with focus groups, and the information is getting out that way. And then after midterms are completed, the students will hear some presentations in classroom setting on what they can expect with the rotating drop. We also started a community service project, which is going to, which I think I mentioned here before in this forum, which is going to encompass the PTO from the the PTO and the community service groups from the high school, and from the 4 towns, the PTOs and their community service groups are all working together to take a collection for the VA hospital in Lyons for both homeless veterans and veterans that are housed there. I got a list from the hospital of comfort items that they called, and we got together and divided those lists up, and we're all going to work together on this community service project. And I think it's a great development. I don't think anything like this has happened in the past between our school and the sending middle school. So it's a great way to get together and get something meaningful accomplished. And hopefully it'll be just the start of more things that we can do together. And the start date for getting that collection off the ground, we're looking at March 5th. We also talked about the transition to high school, the incoming 8th graders, and next year the home opening game for football will acknowledge the 8th graders from all the schools. All the kids will come together. They can wear their school colors and hopefully sit in a particular area of the bleachers, and they'll be acknowledged by announcement. And the PTOs are going to provide noisemakers that will say Watchung Hills Warriors, and they'll get some high school spirit going earlier than in the past, and that I think is a great thing too. And we also talked about at the other end, our kids that have already graduated, keeping them in touch with the high school, keeping email addresses of graduating seniors, and then setting up a bank on the website called Alumni Connection, so that if, as our students are in college, they can get in touch with current high school students, or the other way around, the current high school students could get in touch with alumni at particular schools. So if someone is interested in, going to Rutgers, they can look on the website and say, these 3 children, from Washington Hills go to Rutgers, and they could contact them. Hopefully, we could also do it by school, by major as well, and that would be another way to reach out to them.
I think they were going to fill out a data sheet where they were going to put different pieces of information that would filter through our email, so they would have basically a secure way of communicating with these students. And it actually was one of our alumni that designed the system, so we were very proud of that.
Yeah, we got to see a demo in the meeting, and it was great. It was a wonderful thing. And that's pretty much what we discussed at our Community Relations Committee meeting.
Thank you.
One more thing, I'm sorry. Also enclosed in the folders is the mission statement, because that's something that we have been discussing in community relations, and we have an existing mission statement, and in all our discussions about board goals, there's a lot of interplay, and I think that we should all be aware of what's out there. The mission statement is already posted on the website, and I think the goals there have a lot in common with the discussions we've been having with our board goals and our objectives.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions, Rob?
Well, have you thought, because I guess yours would be the appropriate committee, working with Tom or maybe the guidance department. Colleges do it, but I think it'd be a terrific idea for us, especially with community relations, to reach out to the community to see if there's a way we could develop a program, an internship bank for the summers. Kids.
It's funny you bring that up. I had the exact same thought, and I'm thinking that would be a great item to get on our next meeting. But so that's a great suggestion. One other thing I forgot to mention: 3rd annual year, we have a parent-teacher-student talent show. This is going to be the 3rd year. I started 3 years ago, and it's still continuing through the PTO. There's a show called Panorama, and this year it is on April 4th. And if anybody is interested in performing or knows of anybody who likes to perform, what I'll do is I'll forward everybody the email, in case you know of any performers that would like to participate in the upcoming talent show. And please put on your calendars. It's a great night to see all the talent here.
Thanks. Any other questions? Thank you very much. We discussed the 50th anniversary already, I think. Anything else you want to add to that? Just remind me, what's the next event? There's the
next event is movie night.
Movie night.
Or movie day, I guess, not night.
And when is it?
That will be February 9th. Then the dinner dance, March 14th. Hall of Fame, April 12th. Casino night, April, date to be announced. Triathlon, June. I can't recall.
8th, maybe Sunday, June 8th, I think.
And the, I guess the various student and teacher basketball, volleyball events.
What happened to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, the Hall of Fame is, actually, they're getting it together now. They're going to have the
Is there a date on-
induction, April 12th, I think. Induction at Forest Lodge.
Okay.
Oh, and the garden, don't forget the garden. That's getting launched also the end of this month.
Okay, great. So go to the movies in the 50s and February the 9th.
Remember them all too well.
Yeah, that probably helped make them. Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll move on past committee reports to first opportunity for the public to comment. If there's any public, please come to the podium. Give your name and address. Seeing no public, we'll move on. I don't have any specific items on board discussion for this evening that I didn't already cover in terms of my plea to you to those who've not filled out the evaluation to complete their self-evaluation. Not there, but the board's self-evaluation form that they have.
The minutes on the agenda, D6, walk-in.
Oh, the walk-in.
I should have said that before.
Can we just do that at the time that we do the Ds? Can't we just do it that way?
Yes.
I mean, why do I have to move it onto the agenda? I mean, it's a walk-in, we just put it in the agenda when we read the motions.
Can you do that?
Why can we do that? All right. Hearing my legal counsel say no problem, we'll just do it that way.
We're good.
Never mind.
Never mind.
As long as it gets done.
Just want to get done, yeah. With that, we can move on to action items. Okay, let's start with the As. Are there any of the As, A1 through A4, that need to be voted on separately that people would like to have pulled? Seeing none, hearing none, can I get a motion for the As? And then a second?
Second, I'll move it or second, whatever
You
Tim
moved
needs.
it? Need a
Second.
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 Any discussion on the As?
Fran, on A4, I know we've done this the last 2 years, you'll just, if there's any issues that have to get discussed, you'll,
Absolutely.
you will, okay, thank you. That's all.
Any other discussion on the As? Did everybody attend the meetings on December the 3rd and December the 17th so they can vote on A1 and A2? Does anybody need to excuse himself from that? Was everybody here those 2 meetings?
I don't know about everybody, but I
Well,
was.
I'm asking, because I just want to make sure that people don't vote on something, and you can just abstain from
sorry,
that
you
part
were
of
here.
it.
No, wait, I thought I was here.
Yeah, you were here.
say?
Pardon?
What's the minutes say?
I don't think I was here. I don't think I
How
was
can I
here.
remember that far back?
I don't think I was here the 10th.
That's okay. The 10th is the one we're voting on.
There you go.
Neither were we.
There you go. So no one else was here, huh?
You did miss a meeting. You did miss one of the meetings. You should-
Maybe there was one like beginning, like the 4th, we're not voting on the December 4th.
I think it was the 4th, yeah. No,
December
we're not
was
voting.
We are,
I think I may have missed the 17th.
I have the minutes if you want.
I was in the curve.
okay, man with the minutes will tell us.
Absent from the 17th was Mr. Peter Fallon and Miss Sandra
Right.
Beckner.
I was having tough duty then.
Absent from the 3rd was Rob Horowitz.
You were right, Rob. You just had the wrong day. Okay, so we can record you as being abstaining from those parts of the vote, okay? Can I get pardon?
Please.
Can I get a roll call vote on A1 through A4 then?
Mr. Binder?
Aye.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes, with one abstention, thank you.
Yeah, December.
As to A1.
Right. Mr. Falzarano?
Yep.
Mrs. Beckner?
Yes, except for A2, I'll abstain on A2.
And A through A1 also.
I see you didn't.
You gotta do
separate them,
A1 and
right,
A2 because they're
right, you put them
executive
together.
heading.
All right, I'm
I was trying
abstaining
to
on the
confuse
minutes.
us.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Mandel?
Yes, you're abstaining
Happy?
on one, too.
No, that was January.
Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Dr. Yagan?
Yes.
Dr. Seelig?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Okay, we have a motion for B1.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion on B1?
Except that, I must say, they sound exciting, and they're going to be well received by our students, and it's a great service to our students.
Can I get a roll call?
We're not actually.
Can I get a voice vote on B1? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. All right, that's slow down.
Gonna roll.
Just roll it. Are any of the Cs, we have 4 items there, C1 through C4, are any of the Cs ones that people want to pull to be voted on separately? Can I get a motion on C1 through C4
I'll
then?
move C1 through C4.
Can I get a second on C1 through
I
C4?
can second that.
Any discussion on those items? I have one question on C2. Do you know how many hours Chris is spending now in the evening or weekends on the theater work? Do you have any sense of that? And
It fluctuates, Paul, it depends on the events, and the costs get, I think we have actually in there, but we charge it directly back to the organization using the theater.
Go straight back to that organization. Since there's money involved, can I get a roll call vote on this?
Mr. Binder?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Balzarano?
Yes.
Ms. Fechner?
Yes.
Mr. Harowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Mandel?
Yes.
Mr. Chappie?
Yep.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Dr. Yaga?
Yes.
Dr. Seeley?
Yes.
I'd like to move D6 onto the agenda.
And we're just gonna do it as part of the meeting, so we're just gonna move them all.
Oh,
I have D1 through D5, and we have a walk-in D6, okay? Can I get them, does anybody have any of the Ds that they would like to vote on, or not vote on, but would like to have a separate discussion on and vote on separately? Hearing, excuse me, hearing none, can I get a motion for the Ds, D1 through D6 then?
Then I'll move D1 through D6.
I'll second that.
Can I get a second? Any discussion on D1 through
I
D6?
have a question. On D5, it said that Watchung Hills opposes the legislation. How strongly can we, how many people do we notify? Who do we notify? Should we all be writing letters? It's such a disastrous financial thing for us. Should we all write to the assemblyman, or is there a committee we should write to?
Well, you're always free to do so. We send the letters to our representatives in the Assembly and the Senate. And generally, I try to get the person who's sponsoring the bill. So I do it on behalf of the board, but you're certainly, as board members and citizens, are not only encouraged, but I'd say this is tough legislation.
Email,
Very tough.
certainly I would get a letter off, but if you read what they're proposing and the ramifications of it, I don't think we can oppose it strongly enough.
It's essentially paid family leave.
For 10 weeks.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know what to say. There's a 4% cap.
What do we do
Financially,
now?
it would be disaster.
Family? Do we have any?
Well, it's unpaid.
It's unpaid family leave.
Think about
So-
1/4 of the school year. Think about the kids.
You're gonna have to pay two people to do one job.
And then you have to find the substitute too, and go find a wonderful substitute in some of our more esoteric courses.
And
Put the
Tim-
word educational disaster in there somewhere.
Now, Tim, this is beyond education too? This is the entire state that this would be, this legislation would be addressing? All
Yeah.
state employees, not just educational
Yeah,
employees?
essentially, and I think, you know, there's some rough language that they're gonna pass it on to the employees, but the last time they mentioned something like this was not to this level. They talked about it, then the NJEA got a hold of it, and next thing you know, it was our option, and we had to pay it. It became less of our option, and you have to pay it. You employer has to pay it, it's not gonna be a deduction for the employees. So, I mean, essentially, the way this bill is written, we'd be paying it,
Has it been supported in both the Assembly and the Senate?
yes.
Ooh.
I don't think there's much public awareness of this issue either.
No, they slipped this one in.
During the
Tough
lame duck
bill.
season?
I think we should get this in the paper as soon as possible.
Well, it would create absolute havoc for us and for our students. So I would urge us all. I understand that they do read their mail down there in Trenton, I hope.
Okay. Any other questions on the Ds? Comments?
I do have
Go ahead.
one comment. The bottom paragraph on the first page,
Which one are you looking at? What page?
sorry, D5,
D5.
is it true that it's a tax increase for only employees?
Again, that's what the legislation is speaking to, but they're leaving the door wide open, and I've seen them do this in the past. They start that way, they say it's gonna go to the employees, and then it turns around and they take it away from the employees and say, well, you employer have to pay it. So it's hard to say with this one. To me, I would bet it would come to the employer.
But my question is, must we approve just these words, or can we add something else along the lines of what you said? And I'd also like to add that for school systems, this is a very important impact on the kids. Can we add that little paragraph?
What wording would you like to modify or include in
It said
there? Taylor, why don't you define, let's just frame it out, what kind of things you'd like to see in there, and then we can agree to that frame, and you can write the specifics, so we get the specifics.
I'd like to mention something about the fact that 10 years out of a 40-week school year,
10 weeks out of a 40-week school.
41-week school year, would have a disastrous impact on those children who are taught by those employees.
Okay, now, who moved and who seconded this?
I moved it.
Who
And I
seconded?
seconded it.
Okay, now, so you're proposing that we add in here another part of another whereas, it says, speaks to the impact of basically 25% of the year being taken away.
I mean, that could fit
potentially.
right into the third paragraph, too.
Pardon?
Could fit right into the third paragraph.
It's a different thought than increasing the cost of operating.
No, imperative to the educational process that we employ substitutes. I mean, you could do whatever you want to. I'm just-
It's a different point.
Okay.
It's
fine.
It'd be another whereas.
Another whereas. is
Another
fine.
whereas.
Another
Do you have any problem with adding that whereas?
Nope.
Do you have a
Whereas, that'd be
problem?
fine.
No, another.
Okay, so given that you moved and seconded it, we can make that addition to there, and we can frame it out. Bernie, perhaps you could send some language or think about it, or maybe we could write
It's
some
not
and
much more
send
than
it to you.
what I just said.
Yeah.
But the business about tax increase, isn't there also a potential tax increase for the taxpayers of these towns?
Sure.
So you
Well,
pass it on.
again, I'm
That's not
speaking
the
up
way-
for the taxpayer. Why not put it in there?
It's not, that's not the way it's
I mean-
written right now. That's the only caveat, it's not written.
I said a potential
Yeah, potential.
impact on local taxpayers.
How
You are
does one
correct.
ask for, under what conditions is one allowed to ask for and be eligible for this 10-week?
Probably the same family leave.
That's already in
provisions.
existence?
Care of a family member, care of a child.
Oh, boy.
Family pet.
I would think paid family would probably incentivize it a little bit more.
Just
Not to
I mean, it
make
would
light
make
of the
people more
situation
willing to
like
do
that,
this.
but certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, the people would
That's-
flock to this.
That's the
I'd
issue.
like to just add just a off the top of my head number. If everybody in our district asked for 10 weeks off, how much of our salary base, basically you're losing a portion of $15 or $16 million.
Well, it would have to be close to 25%.
Yes,
Sure,
great.
25% of your
I
teacher's
mean, you think
salary.
about
Total
that.
impact could be as high as $4 million.
Because you'd have to replace them with other teachers while they were on family.
So we'd be, replacing those people who were paying $4 million. That one is not
And very-
just hide under the rug.
And it's not easy to find well-qualified 10-week substitutes in each content area.
Unless you got a sub who's taking off from another district.
10
Oh,
weeks
well,
of-
You're still paying for them.
Okay.
School to school.
Any other comments on the Ds? Hearing none, can we get a roll call vote on D1 through D6?
Mr. Binder?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Falzarano?
Yeah.
Mrs. Fechner?
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Mandel?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Dr. Yaget?
Yes.
Dr. Seelig?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Okay, rocking right along. We can move on to other business. Does anybody have any other business?
Just that,
I'm sorry.
We got a lot of people.
driving around, they put a couple signs up there,
Oh,
look
yeah.
awesome.
They do.
Okay, so we have some signs up.
Yeah, I
Where are
noticed
the-
that.
where are the
New signs
Go
are
look
up?
at.
Yes.
Front
Some of them are, yeah.
Yes.
corner by 78, back corner by the gym.
I drive with my eyes closed, so I probably didn't see them.
You just need light on them now.
Yeah.
You just need a little light on them.
Chris will take care of it.
Yeah, it's good.
Go ahead, Bernie, you had a question.
Yeah, I probably could have made these comments during the committee reports, but in the interest of time, I decided to hold my comments until, see if we had time. I believe it's important for the board to know that in the state law, it says that we must inform Greenbrook of the cost per student for next year by February 4th. In my way of calculating, that's like about 2 weeks from now.
Right.
The second point of importance is that 7 days before we submit to the county superintendent, we have to have a written contractual agreement with Greenbrook, and it has to be approved 7 days before it goes to the county super. I don't know if we've done that in the past, but this is a target for us for this year. Let's make sure we do it right. The third thing you all have to remember is that the state law says that if there are any errors in cost per student, whether it's above or below, or if there needs to be a true-up in terms of the number of students, those things can be corrected through either the county or state suit. And the true-up is by law going to be 3 years after the contract year. So we have plenty of opportunity to really see what's going on. But please, this year, let's make sure we do all the things we have to do. We're allowed to charge for the resource room on an hourly basis. Let's take advantage of the law and make sure we do everything we're allowed to do. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business at this point in time?
Well, I don't know, business, but just really a follow-up. Fran, at the last meeting, the issue of, and I think we were all enthusiastic with the SAT preparation course that Brock described, and the issue, I think the only issue was, I think we all felt that'd be a good idea to commence it this spring. And it was left that you, I believe you with Brock.
Actually, with Michael.
Michael, would meet, and have you had an opportunity?
We have, Rob, thank you. It's looking very favorable that we will be able to do that in the fourth marking period. I was going to bring a proposal for your approval either February 4th or February 20th.
Well, that's terrific, because I think we all agreed how important that was. So,
Okay.
I have one
Thank you.
item, Burl.
Rob, were you done, Rob?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, Fran?
Just very briefly, an item for other business. I just wanted to let the board know that I attended a meeting at the county office on Friday, which included the superintendents from Somerset and Hunterdon County. We were introduced to the new county executive superintendent for our county, who is Trudy Doyle. We were also given remarks by Lucille Davy, who is the Commissioner of Education for the State Department of Education. She took about almost 2 hours to review the new Corzine funding formula for school funding. We were also provided with a fact sheet which calculates or gave us the formula by which our aid was calculated, the extra aid. That's something I can email to you. It's on the website, gives you all the details of the calculation. We did have some questions for her that were, hopefully get some clarifying answers. She was, she was very professional in her delivery of the information. Obviously, it would have been nice to have been asked questions before the legislation was put through. However, it appears to be a directive of the governor's office that that Ms. Davy, I should say, goes to every county to deliver this information on the funding proposal that has been enacted by the legislature. So I believe we're the first to hear the proposal. I should say to hear her comments on the proposal. And she will, in the next 4 weeks, be going around the state. As of February 1st, our new executive county superintendent, Trudy Doyle, will actually start in the county office. Peter?
Fran, that presentation from the Commissioner of Education, you said it addressed the funding formula. Did it address the funding formula that will be in effect after the 2 years of payoffs that is part of the governor's plans?
Good point. No, in fact, it's interesting that you bring that up, because she did say that the whole formula was predicated on the toll hikes going through, that all that excess revenue that we're supposed to be getting from toll hikes being one of them was all predicated on where the base was going to come for this money. So, very interesting. No, she did not address that.
Thank you.
Paul, just one other quick thing. We all got, I think, one of the last meetings, an email. Dina sent it out to all of us. It was sent to Fran and all of us from Miss Ann Smith. I guess she works at Merck. And the issue of these U.S. News and World Report rankings, whether it's high schools, graduate schools, colleges, and I think this is something that. I don't understand them all that well when it comes to high school. My understanding might be flawed that it's based on numbers of kids who take AP tests. Is that about the...
Yeah, I did actually send her a response. I should have copied the full board on it.
But I think maybe also, Fran, because, in this era of everyone, clicking a mouse and looking, she sent a chart and it showed a decline from 2000, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it, Paul?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay,
I-
so it
and
showed a
I saw the
decline
trend
in our
response.
rank from 2003 to 2007. I think this is a, it's a flawed system, but people look to U.S. News, whether it's the top 20 small colleges, large colleges, med schools, hospitals, everything, and, hospitals advertise, I'm number 6 on the U.S. News report. I think, Fran, in the response, maybe it'd be something you could show us, and maybe it should even be on the website, just a note from the superintendent about U.S. News rankings. Because if it's based on kids, then, we could get 1,500 kids to take AP Calculus. The fact that, 90% of them would fail, who cares? If that's it, the rationale, the stupidest, methodology.
It's a very narrow protocol. It is, as you say, the AP tests, the students that take AP classes and tests. The other piece of that is IB, International Baccalaureate. And the schools that offer the IB program and in combination with a rigorous AP program are the ones that move to the top in that ranking, and that's the narrow protocol.
But is it correct that they don't look at
The scores.
at the scores or percentage of kids that if Watchung Hills had 80% of the kids getting 3s or better, that they would just
at
look.
percentages.
What?
They just look at
They look
They
at
just look percentages.
numbers of kids taking these tests.
Not
So-
how- not how
Not
many
how
get.
well
Not how
three or
many
better.
get,
And not how well
passing
they-
scores. So it's
or 4s and 5s.
It's like looking at the SAT and saying, every senior and junior in a high school took the SAT, but the scores were whatever. So
No, it's a very
I just think
narrow
it
protocol.
it should be just, not a major thing, but people look at these things and you might suggest in that either letter or just on the website, showing some of the rankings that you would feel would be more important under,
Yeah,
the New
more
York's,
balanced.
the New Jersey, percentage of kids taking, passing the, 3s or better with our SAT scores, they become, all those type of things, that at least they can understand that it's something we view importantly when the tests
That's right.
are scoring, accurately or intelligently. Just merely to
Right,
look
more,
at
a more
say,
balanced.
we've declined in 3 years, it could be meaningless if the information they're looking at is kind of
No, you
unimportant.
You want to give a more balanced view, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Jerry?
Do we know that we're going to be monitored next year for TSAC?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, yes,
One
we
of the
do.
things that, during committee reports,
You have,
I remembered this. CSA appoints a district performance review committee, determines the total number of people, and I know in Greenbrook, we've already started that process of going through the documentation and all the things with this committee being formed, and as part of that committee, you need one or more board members, and then the Board of Ed may also have its own committee, subcommittee of the board to monitor the progress of
You're a
an
little ahead of
assistant
us
at
there.
this district. So I'm just wondering,
You're a little ahead of us in Greenbrook there. We haven't formed that committee yet. That's not something I've brought to you for consideration as yet.
and then the Board of Ed may also establish a process and procedures for the operation of the CPR. So I'm wondering, rather than waiting till it's,
Yeah,
it's upon us,
it's
maybe
not
we
my-
can get ahead of this
It's not my goal to
thing.
wait till it's upon us, but I did want to get through with a few things. We had remember we had our goals, our board goals, the CSA goals. We've had a lot to do with our construction, with our B&G. We've had a lot to do with, planning our budget. So, I don't want to delay. I agree with you, we should not delay, but I do think we should look at it very soon.
Yeah, I would just point out that we don't have a choice on this, and it's going to happen. And as much as we might not want it to go through it, or we might disagree with some of the concepts, the fact is we have to spend time on this, and we're going to have to defer other activities and spend our time on this monitoring program rather than perhaps choosing to do something else that might be more for the education of the kids. And so
And before
we
it
just
starts
have to
in,
prioritize it higher than what we have right now.
it starts in September, right? We're gonna
The
start it-
monitoring does hit in September.
So,
Well,
I
we
mean,
haven't
if
been
to
given
extent
the...
we can get ahead of this
Yeah,
thing
we haven't been
before
given the
then.
actual dates, timelines yet, because remember, the new county superintendent is starting in February. Originally, that position was not supposed to be filled until April 1st. So with all of that sort of backing up, we didn't feel that it was as urgent as now we know she's starting February 1st, so we'll start getting dates and timelines, probably in the next couple of months.
The question I had was, it says the Board of Ed may establish the process and procedures for the operation of the DPR committee. We can form our own committee that can do this, and then you know whether or not that's something you wanted to consider or not doing.
Honestly, I haven't
Or
researched it
for-
enough at this point to be able to say go forward with that or not. But I do appreciate the suggestion.
I spoke with Eva
Oh, I
from
have
Franklin.
yeah.
They
Yeah,
went
just
through their
it, yeah.
QSAS, so they've already done it. So
Yeah.
if you ever need any
Well, yeah,
info.
and Watchung Borough has done it.
Yeah.
They had
Yeah, Kate
from
Green
Montgomery.
did. And I know it takes a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
It
She
takes
said
a
if there's
significant amount
anything
of
we
time out of the
need, to
district.
give her a call.
Montgomery, Franklin, Watchung, and one other place in Somerset County has had it. Has had it this year.
Okay. Any other business at this point in time? Can I get, let's see, what do I do? We don't need a motion to go into executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session.
We want public
In
comment
accordance
first.
with, pardon?
Public comment first, there's nobody
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry, public comment. Second opportunity for public comment.
People have been waiting here
Seeing nobody
patiently.
coming forward to the podium, we'll then move into executive session for the purposes of discussing confidential matters that primarily governed by attorney-client privileges, negotiations, and some personnel matters. And after that, after this session, there may be action taken.
Motion to go into executive session for those purposes.
And I'll second.